Today, we're diving into an ancient philosophy built entirely around pleasure. But hold on, this isn't the story you think it is. At the heart of it all is a figure who is almost wiped from the history books, a figure who changes everything. Let's picture ancient Greece for a second, a world of brilliant philosophers, almost all of them men. Now try to imagine this. What if one of the very first schools of thought dedicated entirely to the pursuit of pleasure was actually run by a woman? Now that's not just some cool what-if scenario. It's a historical fact that's been ignored for way too long. And uncovering this one detail completely reframes how we look at this entire philosophy. Her name was Arete of Cyrene. She lived back in the 4th century BC, but chances are you've probably never heard her name. And that's a real shame, because her role was absolutely crucial. She's one of those figures who forces us to question the history of philosophy as we've always been taught it.
And this is the real kicker. We're talking about an era when a woman's place was considered the oikia, the home. The public sphere was completely off limits. But Arete, she wasn't just studying philosophy. She was running an entire school of thought. For the time, that was nothing short of revolutionary.
So how did she do it? Well, the key was her family. Her father was Aristippus, the founder of the school, and he didn't just teach her. He actively encouraged her to break through the limits placed on women. And when he died, she was the one who took the reins, becoming the essential bridge that passed this philosophy on to her son and to all the generations that followed. So what exactly was this philosophy that Arete helped save from being forgotten? Let's get into the heart of Cyrenaic thought, the search for pleasure.
The key word here is hedonism. The reasoning was actually pretty simple. The only thing we can ever be certain of are our sensations, right? So, if our senses are our only compass, then pleasure, the most positive sensation of all, must be the ultimate goal of life.
And this is where their idea of pleasure clashes with the more famous one from Epicurus. For the Cyrenaics, pleasure isn't just the absence of pain, a state of calm. No way. It's something dynamic, an active, intense feeling you can only have in the present moment. And, even more radically, they believed the pleasures of the body were preferable to the pleasures of the mind. This perfectly captures their almost obsessive focus on the now. The past is gone. The future isn't here yet. The only thing that's real is this very moment. So happiness isn't something you plan for or remember. It's something you seize. It was basically carpe diem, centuries before the phrase was even coined. Now that we've got the ideas down, let's meet the man who came up with them, Aristippus of Cyrene, Arete's father. Aristippus was a student of Socrates, but he took his teacher's ideas in a totally original direction. While Socrates talked about abstract concepts like virtue and knowledge, Aristippus essentially said, "Okay, but all of this has to connect with the body, with the pleasure I feel right here and now." There's a famous anecdote that tells you everything you need to know about him. The philosopher Diogenes, who lived in poverty, saw him at court and taunted him, "If you learned to live on lentils, you wouldn't have to flatter the king." Aristippus's comeback was brilliant, and if you learned how to deal with people, you wouldn't have to live on lentils. That says it all, right? This was not a man who looked down on comfort. His incredible ability to adapt earned him the nickname the Royal Dog. He was just as comfortable in the luxury of royal courts as he was in the simplest conditions. For him, the important thing was to enjoy the present, whatever it offered, without worrying about tomorrow. Okay, so at this point, it sounds like a philosophy that's just about letting go and indulging. But here comes the twist. There's a fundamental principle here that changes the entire game. The basic premise is clear. Pleasure is the highest good. Everything we do should be aimed at getting it. Simple, right? But, and this is a huge but, at what cost? Because when you think about it, becoming a slave to your own desires, isn't that just another kind of prison? And here it is, the heart of the whole philosophy. His most famous quote, "I possess, I am not possessed." The genius idea is this: the truly wise person isn't the one who rejects pleasure, but the one who knows how to control it. You enjoy things, for sure, but you never let them rule you. This concept has a name: autarky, or self-sufficiency. So the ultimate goal isn't to collect as many pleasures as you can, but to have complete control over yourself. True freedom for them isn't doing whatever you want. It's not being forced to want anything. This inner mastery is the key to enjoying life without becoming its slave. And all of this brings us right back to her, to Arete, the woman who kept this incredibly sophisticated vision of pleasure from being lost forever.
Historical sources tell us something fascinating. While her father, Aristippus, lived this philosophy, it was his grandson, her son, Aristippus the Younger, who turned it into a full-blown system of thought. And who was right in the middle? Arete. As a mother and a teacher, she was the bridge between these two generations, ensuring her father's ideas not only survived, but evolved.
So Arete's impact was immense. She didn't just run a philosophical school and save an entire movement. She became living proof that intelligence and the ability to lead have absolutely nothing to do with gender, even in one of the most patriarchal societies in history.
And her legacy is so powerful. Arete's story reminds us that the roles society assigns us don't define who we are or what we can become. It's a message that, thousands of years later, feels more relevant than ever.
And this brings us to one final question. History is full of silenced voices, of figures deliberately left in the shadows. It makes you wonder, how many other people like Arete are out there, just waiting to be rediscovered? Thanks for joining me on this one.
Se una domanda ti ha fatto pensare, fermati un secondo. La filosofia non dà risposte facili, ti insegna a farle migliori. Metti like se ami pensare, segui Filosofia LM e continuiamo a cercare insieme.